Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your very kind words of presentation. Thank you very much for speaking in Italian. Thanks to you, Mark, for inviting me to make a lecture and to express my point of view about a topic, I think, which is one of the crucial topics if you want to address global challenges in today's world. Well, while flying to Washington, 10 hours flight, I've been reflecting, and instead of preparing a written paper, I took some notes and some point because, well, when we talk about cultural diplomacy, we talk about something which is absolutely not new in the diplomatic practice. Because you know that when we have to address common issues, when we have to, I would say, speak to people, and we have to work for prosperity, for peace, culture, and I would prefer, Mark, to talk about, I would say, not to talk about cultural diplomacy, but diplomacy between cultures, because the relations between peoples, relations are based on values and based on principles, and values are expressed through the system of diplomacy. So this is my first point. I think one good thing is that diplomacy between cultures and public diplomacy, which is equally important, are not any longer in the monopoly of governments, because non-governmental actors such as academics, think tanks, research organizations have generated direct public involvement in diplomacy. And this is the evolution in international society. This cultural diplomacy is a fundamental component of traditional diplomacy that is not limited only to officials, but also reaches out to other important segments of our societies. I think first about young people. I think about academics, scholars, and I think institutes of international affairs, parliamentarians, and political and religious leaders, as well as media community. All these can be very easily indicated as the protagonists of the new system of cultural diplomacy or diplomacy between cultures. This kind of new engagement with important segments of any society is indeed one important precondition for the success of any form of diplomacy and political cooperation among countries. I think this is a form, this is a system which is dialogue-based form of soft power. It is less about winning arguments and more about engagement and about building ties and relations. This is the meaning of cultural diplomacy. I would say that one fundamental component of cultural diplomacy is building mutual trust and understanding through dialogue. Dialogue must consist on a two-way communication process in which those involved seek first to listen to and understand each other in order to promote a better mutual understanding and trust. It is very important also to say this dialogue takes place in a framework of listening, showing that the interests and ideas of the others are important to us, and that consequently we are open to receive their contributions. This is my first point. My second point is the following. Diplomacy between cultures has existed as a practice for centuries. It is, I would define it, a course of actions which are based on and utilize the exchange of ideas, values, traditions, and other aspects of culture and identity, whether to strengthen relationships, enhance socio-cultural cooperation, or even promote national interests. This is why cultural diplomacy can be practiced by either public sector, private sector, or civil society. For my country, for Italy, which is one of the cultures and arts global powers, it has been always a national priority interest, the promotion through intercultural cooperation and mutual understanding, peace and prosperity. Promoting peace and prosperity for us is best achieved through cultural cooperation and mutual understanding. Cultural diplomacy is, for Italy, the best way to build a new 21st century's humanism based on the centrality of every individual. This is why cultural diplomacy is not an end in itself, is a tool, is, I would say, is a system which is necessary to achieve a highly political goal worldwide: peace, prosperity, and mutual understanding. I think it is very easy to say, when diplomacy gets stronger by promoting culture, dialogue, mutual understanding, more likely weapons keep silent. And this is the prevention which is absolutely necessary in today's world. But cultural diplomacy, and this is my third point, means also preserving identities and preserving cultural histories of peoples. And this is why thousands of Italian men and women work every day in various capacities and with different responsibilities to help to restore cultural patrimonies of the humanity in many areas of conflict or post-conflict, from Iraq to Afghanistan, from North Africa to Syria, or they have been working to restore unique pieces of millenary culture, such as the city of Qom in Iran after the devastating earthquake, or the precious, prohibited old imperial city of Beijing. This is culture, this is preservation of cultural identities as a system to promote mutual understanding and peace. Think now of the importance of cultural diplomacy to revitalize and to strengthen transatlantic relations. This is one of the topics of today's meeting. Today, more than ever, we need not only to relaunch transatlantic alliance and cooperation. I would use, we need a transatlantic renaissance, more than this. Today, the topic of the day, Datagate issue in Europe and the United States, raised the point of whether and how much mutual trust among allies is affected. And nevertheless, we do need to make the reasons to stay and work together prevail once again over doubts and misunderstandings. And to do so, diplomacy between cultures is of great help. Dear friends, the question of how to strike the right balance between security and fundamental rights of people, including privacy, cannot require a simply technocratic response. We need a political and human vision on how to build a cooperation between historical allies that face common threat and see a common destiny. This is the best way to address together extremely sensitive issues that run the risk to divide us, not to unite. Transatlantic relations are based on common values, primarily the centrality of human beings and their fundamental and non-negotiable rights. So, cultural diplomacy, by promoting a shared humanistic vision, can be a very powerful tool to invest in human resources, in the younger generations, and so to rebuild mutual understanding and trust. The strength of shared transatlantic values makes America and Europe much stronger in promoting together dialogue and cooperation in different parts of the world. Culture is the best vehicle for common policies of openness and understanding, rejecting impositions or pre-cooked solutions that our partners or interlocutors could not accept. We do need a new common visionary approach, for example, to Africa, to Asia, based on dialogue and promotion of basic values, of eradicating poverty, creating better living conditions, improving education. These are the fields where common action is badly needed. Only by working together we will be stronger in doing so. So, through cultural diplomacy, an open-minded approach, we can overcome today's difficulties and then become stronger on addressing together common challenges. A shared interest between United States and Europe is not to impose or to export democracy, but our common interest is to do what is necessary for democracy, prosperity to grow up, respecting, preserving, understanding different cultures and identities is a precondition to succeed. No impositions can lead to succeed in parts of the world where people are appealing for their dignity. If we have in mind what happened in the Arab world with what we used to call Arab Spring, I wouldn't like to use Arab Spring any longer, because unfortunately what is happening now is something very different. From the very beginning, where people were asking for dignity, prosperity, protection and promotion of fundamental rights. What has been the approach from the West, America and Europe? In some cases, try to indicate the best way to proceed. In other cases, wait-and-see approach. Both were wrong. We should have been proactively involved through, I would say, making a political exercise to understand different parts of the world that are different. I've been one of the strongest promoters of religious freedom. During my term as foreign minister, and before and after that as vice president of European Commission, I've been advocating for religious freedom, not only for my religious belief, Christianity, but for all the religions. I would say one of the preconditions for protecting fundamental rights of individuals is to defend their right to believe, their right to profess publicly or privately a religion. On these, unfortunately, we have been looking at position taken by European Union and America too shy on intervening, on being very vocal where rights of believers have been violated in many parts of the world. And this should have been achieved through talking, listening to, promoting understanding, not by condemning, pointing finger against one or the other leaders of a given country. This is the best way to me, because mutual understanding is based on listening to first and then drawing a conclusion. We run the risk first to judge and then to try to understand. And this is absolutely wrong. This is why this system of diplomacy between cultures is the only bridge I can see today on trying to, I would say, overcome tensions, to mitigate difficulties. Think about an area of the world that I know quite well, Mediterranean. If you want Mediterranean to become a land or a sea of prosperity, and all the countries in the northern, eastern and southern shores of Mediterranean growing in prosperity, in dignity of people, in protecting their rights, we have to build bridges, not to create Europe as a fortress, defending and protecting itself from flows of desperate people that come to Europe simply because they are desperate. The problem of massive migration. Massive migration are one of the fields where credibility of cultural diplomacy is at stake. Because if you don't accept in principle that people can migrate to find a better life, or I would say to promote an exchange of different cultures, and we create barriers, obstacles. Once a famous, respected African leader told me during a G8 meeting where African leaders were invited to participate. He said, "Dear friend, you have to understand, you Western countries, you Europeans, you have to understand, either you will be taking our goods or you will be taking our people. You cannot say no, no, because sooner or later, pressure will be untenable. Pressure of desperate people will be so strong that nobody could resist. This is why culture, again, intercultural dialogue is the only way to prevent misunderstanding, hatred, I would say penetration of extremism. All these negative phenomena will be eradicated only if, with an open-mind approach, we, in this case, the West, Europe and America together. I'm not so sure that we'll become a federal union. I'm a partisan of the United States of Europe, in my country, and not only in my country, but I'm sure Europe and America have unprecedented opportunity now to be protagonists on promoting understanding and intercultural dialogue. In these, our credibility will be broadly recognized. How many people in the Arab world continue to look at the NATO as an actor of war instead of a promoter of institution building or stabilization or reconstruction? Why so? Because of our mistakes in the presentation of a purely military alliance that, frankly speaking, in the post-2014 should be changed by involving civil society. Why not have a consultation between NATO and civil society on how to address issues like stabilization in Sahel? Why not possible to involve civil society? So this is the challenge ahead of us. Not easy. It will be, I would say, requiring political leadership. Only through political leadership, the leaders will be in the condition to open their minds to the others. This is the proof of strength, not of weakness. The more we will be able to promote intercultural dialogue, the more we'll be stronger. And since I want my Europe be stronger, I'm a strong partisan of Europe promoting basic values, not defending itself from the others. This would be a tremendously serious mistake. If so, if we will be able to achieve this very important global and political goal, I think we will discover, and this is my conclusion, once again, that in this globalized world of today, United States cannot find a better ally than Europe, and that Europe will continue, as it was for decades, to consider US as its best ally. But this is the precondition, fighting together for values. This will be leading Europe and America, growing together in the credibility to the eyes of the rest of the world. Thank you very much.